about you, but I can't believe it's Friday. But it is Friday. It's Fearless Friday. Fearless Friday, right? It's Fearless Friday. And it's Friday. Thanks so much for joining us. It's Friday, and I can't begin to tell you how grateful I am that we made it to Friday. Can anybody say hello? I am just so happy to have made it to Friday. Finally, the work week is dragging to a close. Not that I mind talking to you guys, but the traffic, though. The traffic. Is traffic as much an issue in your area as it is here in Metro Detroit? It is unbelievable. The traffic, though. The traffic. The traffic. Folks, drive carefully. Stop the cutting off and the speeding. And if you have to get somewhere by a certain time, wake up a little bit earlier. The rest of us, I know things happen in the mornings. I get that. But try to get there. Wait, I mean, people drive crazily because they're late and they're running late. And they're running late because they woke up late. You didn't wake up on time. And sometimes you're on time, but then you go through the drive-through to get your morning cuppa, right? Whatever moves you. And the drive-through is suddenly jacked up this morning. And so there you are. So you're hurrying to get to your destination. But I kid you not, I am just so glad that it's Friday. I can't wait. I don't know about you, but I can't wait for it to be just like, okay, the end of the day, Friday. I am just going to chill. Right? So today on our show, we're going to talk about something that has come up and that I feel like we all need to talk about. I feel like it's something we have to address. We have to really get outside of ourselves and talk about it in a frank way. I don't think the politicians are doing a good job because often when they're caught up in it, it's a little late for them. You know, they're caught up in it and then they're trying to do damage control and they're trying to clean it up and trying to at that time to appear not to be what the language and the situation is presenting them to be. And it makes you wonder, can people really evolve, or do they really change as they mature, or is this who you really are? And that is the question the rest of us have. So recently, the Prime Minister of Canada, someone who is a beloved world figure. I mean, most people seem to like him in comparison to other world leaders. You know, we're not going to talk about some of the folks from other parts of the world, but he's someone whom is well liked and seemed to be able to pull disparate groups together. He's someone who in his own country, the other groups seemed to favor and thought he was, you know, at least conscious of their plight and sympathetic to their issues on the ground, right? The issues that confront people of color in particular, the issues that that we have to deal with and that we have to face. But recently, a picture emerged of Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada, and the picture emerged of him in blackface. Initially, they were calling it brownface because it's a picture of him with a turban on and in complete blackface. His face was blackened, his face, his neck, and his eye and his hands. And it seemed to make fun. It's like a parody of people of color and people who wear a turban, who a large part of whom a lot of them live in Canada. The Sikh. The Sikhs are not the same as the Arabs, okay? So people who wear a turban, it's a different religion. It's the Sikh religion. It's a form of worship in Canada, in India rather, right? So they're not Arab. So don't, you know, that's a different group. But when the picture emerged, this was taken some almost 20 years ago now. He was 29 at the time. And, you know, it looks like, okay, so what do you say? So in his defense, he said it was an Arabian Nights theme at the school that he was teaching. Okay, so are we supposed to just go ahead with that and believe that? So the question we want to ask is, what was going through your mind at the time? Did you never imagine a political future? But is this, the real question is this who you are? Is this who you really are? Is this how people of color are to you? To make fun of, to make a parody of? And the reason I'm presenting the question is because it seems to me, and I like most of you, are probably thinking that it appears as if wearing blackface is a rite of passage for non-colored people. So non-colored people seem to, for whatever reason, whether they're a CEO here in America, we've certainly seen some politicians who have come out of scandal wearing blackface. It seems to me that wearing blackface is a rite of passage. Is it something that non-colored people do because they just think that this is something that, they make fun of? It just seems that way. So the question the rest of us are asking is, what's up? What's going on? Because this prime minister's political career is in serious jeopardy. I don't believe this is something with the general elections like a month away. I mean, if he had time 6 months from now, he could probably work at it. But a month from now, I think people of color are probably not going to vote for him. Doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to vote for the other candidate, but by default, the other candidate wins because the support he would have enjoyed from people of color, he's not going to get. Because now people are saying, wait a minute, that's how you think of me. So when you're smiling with me and shaking my hands, when you are pretending to like me, that's what you're doing. You're pretending to like me because you really see me as a joke. It's much like, in a lot of ways, some people, when they shake the hands of people of color, they go and wash their hands because they've been socialized for so long to believe that the reason people of color have a different color is because they're dirty, because they never wash. This is some form of, these things emerge from racism. I'm reading a book on the Great Migration that took place here in the American South between 1915 and 1975. You all need to go read that book. It's eye-opening for everyone in this country. Everyone needs to read that book because it's going to tell you why things are the way they are, where those thought processes come from, and it gives you an understanding of why we are where we are today. Then it will be up to us to make up our minds if we're going to move forward, continuing on as we did based on the precepts of the past, or whether we really do realize that we need to make a change for the future. That's where Mr. Trudeau has found himself. Now, I don't know about you all, but I think Canada is trying out this political dynasty thing, much like what we have here in the US, right? Here in America, we tend to have a political dynasty. The Trumps are the new ones. So believe it or not, there will be a Trump later on, 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now, right? So the Kennedys, right? Right? In modern times, the Clintons, yeah. Right. Reagan was a one-man show for a minute there. The Bushes come to mind really quickly, right? But what you find is that they all kind of knew each other because photos have emerged of Bill Clinton and Father Bush at some 30 or 40 years ago when Bill Clinton was a very young man. Father Bush was probably a U.S. senator in Texas. So how did their paths cross? That's how they select American presidents. They go through and they select an American president from a family whom they believe holds not the values necessarily, but who has an understanding of power and who can manage it. Barack Obama was an experiment. Are they likely to repeat that? I don't think so. I don't think Michelle Obama will ever be an elected president or a senator. Who knows? Maybe in 10 years she might feel like it. Depends on what happens, but that's it. So Canada is trying out this political dynasty thing. Justin Trudeau's father, Pierre Trudeau, was a beloved political leader in Canada. He, in fact, was a prime minister of Canada for a long time, for maybe about 2 terms or so. And he was very prolific, very colorful, right? So they're trying out this dynasty thing. And so here comes Justin, who at the time when that photo was taken, he was a teacher teaching a private school. Also seems to be a rite of passage for political leaders who are privileged, right? I mean, they seem to go teach school. I guess it gives them a little roughening around the edges or of some sort, or teaches them how to interact. I don't know. I don't know what their parents are thinking. I seriously don't know. Right? But is that what I do know is that they somehow end up in a situation where they kind of like just end up making changes. So what do you do if you were in Canada right now, or if you're in Canada? What do you do when this emerges about your political leader? You probably are going to think that I don't think he likes me as a person of color. And is he going to get your support? Probably not. Because you're seriously going to consider that, man, you can't trust anybody. So now the question that the rest of us, all of these things are happening at this momentous time in history, in human history, for us to confront the evil that is racism, for us to realize that maybe it's not a good idea to disparage against people based on color, based on appearance. Maybe it's a better idea, if you have to disparage against humanity at all, as Martin Luther King said, maybe just the content of a person's character. Maybe that should be the deciding factor, not the person's skin color, not their appearance. Because people come from different regions of the earth, and in that region of the earth, they dress according to that region, the customs and traditions of that region. I don't think you need a PhD to understand that. I think most of us get that. But what we don't get is you making fun of someone's appearance. How would you like it if I dressed up like, some hillbilly and make a parody of what your parents and your ancestors and maybe your recent ancestors sounded and looked like? You probably wouldn't find it very hilarious or funny, right? You'd find a way to deal with it because it's not presenting the best of you. You probably just would not like it at all. Well, it's the same thing that people of color find themselves in when they are presented and are made fun of and their appearance is mocked. I mean, it's a great shock. And I think I'm beginning to think that this is perhaps, it's just the way that things are. I mean, a person can probably say that, oh, I'm not racist. And at least, even if they don't say it, their actions will say, I am not racist. But their words will say it, but their actions say something else. You see where I'm coming from? I think in a lot of cases, that's what we're seeing. So they may not say that I'm not racist because they don't even want to attach their name to the word racist in a sentence. But their actions, though, their actions speak louder than words. So for all you budding politicians out there, right? Go clean it up, right? Go look into your digital past and look for what the heck is going on. If you have anything to clean up, go do an in-depth Google search, including looking on the dark web, and clean up anything that is likely to come back and bother you. I kid you not. Right? Because you can actually say, I guess Mr. Trudeau is going to say that he was 29 at the time, but at 29, guess what? You're a conscious person. You're not 19, so you can't say, well, it's my youthful foibles. No, you're 29. You weren't in college, so you weren't drunk, like some other politicians have said. You were conscious enough to know that this was something that you were doing. Right? So, unfortunately, I think it's probably going to go very south for him. I don't believe that he can make it. And it's disappointing to me personally because, I actually had hopes for the dude. I actually thought that he was a nice guy. You know what I mean? I am beginning now to be very guarded when I encounter non-colored people, because I'm like, how do you really feel about people who look like me and sound like me? How do you feel about people who have my appearance? How do you feel about people who perhaps don't sound and look like you and who don't have the same experiences that you had growing up? So many times, most of us, when we go into social environments, you encounter people who come from a vastly different background than you are. And what I have often found is that human beings tend to be very clannish and very cliquish. Yeah. And human beings tend to like to associate and associate with people who sound like them, look like them. So you will find that if you come from a different social background, say you didn't make it through, your parents were just pure working class. Raise your hand if that's you. That was me. And then you start mingling with people from a different social strata. And what you find is that people are clannish. They tend to associate with find other people who are from the same social strata as they are, because I guess we are, as human beings, we're uncomfortable that another human being is in the room, maybe. How about if a gator, an alligator went in the room? Sometimes the subliminal messaging that we emit and transmit from our body language and our actions, right? Sometimes tell people how we really feel about them. So we could be shaking someone's hand and saying, yeah, I really like you and I like what you do, but your body language is don't touch me. I don't like people like you. People like you creep me out, or people like you, I don't like people like you. It comes out eventually. And I think what the person who publicized or made public this photo of Mr. Trudeau, I guess they know him or knew him. Maybe it's even a political opponent, but they probably think, don't be fooled by him. This is how he really is. In his defense, he has come out and apologized. He didn't say I'm not racist. He just said that was a wrong thing to do. I shouldn't have done it. Sure, but you can apologize, and whilst you are, a big man to say you apologize, but how do you really feel? Can you have a frank conversation with people in your country who don't look like you and who have vastly different experiences? It's called empathy. Do you have the ability to really empathize? It's in a lot of ways, I watch the activities of the Prince of England, Prince Harry. You can call him the Duke of Sussex, but his title, he is he's how shall I say it? His reality is that he is a prince of England. His family go back over 1,000 years. He is in line to the British throne. And when he chose to marry a black woman, a multiracial woman who is black and white, I asked myself, how does he as a person really view people? Because he never said, I'm not racist, but his actions say, this is the love of my life. This is whom I love. He didn't say, well, because everybody in my family is white, I'm going to go out on a limb and choose a non-colored person, right? A non-white person. He went and chose a colored person. He did it because he said, this is whom I love. It tells you how people really view people, that I really like someone because I like the person, right? I find that I think we all need to be level. Whether you're a politician or whether you're a person in public office or you're a person with a public profile, I think everybody needs to be, I think you need to level with yourself. What do you really think about people? Because make no mistake about it, Trudeau is going to pay for it. And I know that there are other politicians right now who are going through all the stuff that they've ever done in their lives, and they're going to try to clean it up before it becomes public. But I don't know. Jeffrey Epstein certainly thought he had cleaned up everything, and look what ended. Look what happened. They still had the evidence and the cameras and blah blah blah. Right? In other words, what I'm saying is, if you're at this point in your life and you haven't done anything yet, take a deep breath, right? And go get it together. And if you plan to run for office in any capacity, make sure there's nothing out there on you. I remember when the internet became quite the thing, when social media became quite the thing 10, 11 years ago. My daughter was in high school, and you know how people are when they're in high school. They can't see the future. They cannot begin to imagine what the future looks like. But I am the parent and the adult. So I told her, be very careful of what you say publicly, because it is digitally captured and cannot be erased. And later on in life, when you choose to run for public office or you become a public profile, it's going to come back and haunt you. Man, she thought I was crazy. She's like, oh, no, no, no. So she, she had this thing where she would go vent about her teachers. I said, not only can someone see it and tell them, but one day you might be running for public office. It's going to come back up. In those days, when you press delete, you could actually delete stuff. Nowadays, it might look like it's deleted on your screen, but it's really not. See what I'm saying? It's really not deleted, right? So if you're planning to run for public office, I suggest that you go get some attention, pay some attention to that, right? It's not cool. It's really not cool. And I say all of that to say, because it questions and it boggles the mind, because you're asking yourself, what was he thinking? Was he thinking that this was something he could have done and gotten away with? Was he thinking that it's okay to do this? Or was he just having fun at other people's expense? They're the same people you're ruling today. In today's world, we don't have totalitarian regimes like you had 50, 100 years ago, where you could say anything to the people whom you ruled, and that was it. You were the law of the land. That's not how it works today. So I'm saying all of that because I'm concerned, because I want to know what else is out there. Look at Donald Trump, our president. He started running for president, and stuff came out of the woodwork that you would never believe. He never thought of cleaning it up. He found himself where he had to be defensive, painted him, tarnished him. But he's a different character. He just kind of like, I don't care about that. He didn't apologize. He's like, it is what it is. His defense was, they're trying to get back at me. It's fake news, right? Which is the individual's way of dealing with stuff that might not be pleasant, right? We all have those things. But when it comes to certain things, when it comes to issues that relate to gender and sex, right, and race, you have to be really careful about those things, because those things will not leave you for a while. Those things stay with you. And I think that's where Mr. Trudeau has found himself. He has found himself in a situation where he doesn't know what's going to happen. He doesn't know. Certainly, it seems like he has lost this election, the re-election rather. Because now, what are you going to say to the people who look like the people that you made fun of? This is some serious stuff, isn't it? This is some serious stuff. Quite the thing. I don't know. It's going to require some serious overlooking. I'm curious to see how he's going to step out of this. And I know that there are other politicians for whom this is an issue, and for whom this is going to be an issue in the future. There are other politicians who now most likely are faced with the same dilemma, and who have to clean it up. There are things that they have in their past that they have to clean it up. Once upon a time, this used to be what you call a cover-up. Have you ever heard the saying that the cover-up is worse than the crime? That's where it came from, because people used to have stuff that they would cover it up, right? But now, in today's world, what do you have, right? Somebody's saying something. His history has been hidden mostly. Wow. Do you think so? Do you really think so, Mr. Slab? Do you think his history has been hidden? That's quite the thing. Tell me more about it. I don't live in Canada, so do you know something we don't know? Share it with us. For those of you on other platforms, we're talking to someone who is saying that the history has been hidden for Mr. Trudeau. I want to know. It's public knowledge. Wow. Well, see, we get the news filtered over here, so tell us something that we don't know, right? Tell me something that we don't know. Because many have spoken on it. Wow. Well, sucks to be him. Because now he has found himself right smack in the midst of a political storm. Do you think he will survive, though? Do you think it's likely that he will emerge from this? I have viewers on YouTube who are passing comments, and they're making comments about Mr. Trudeau's past, his history. and his future. I'm just curious. Do you think he's gonna win this next election? Because this is some crazy stuff. I love Canada, by the way. Shout out to my Canadian friends. You know, I have family in Toronto, right? Yeah. Right. So shout out to Canada. And I love Canada. I don't want you guys to go through anything over there. Canada is a beautiful place, isn't it? Here in Detroit, Canada is right across the river. So I was explaining to my brother yesterday how people live in Windsor and work in Detroit. And he couldn't understand that. He's like, that's two different countries. I said, yeah, but it's right over the river. You can literally throw a rock across the river. Just kidding. Just kidding. Canada is only a fake dominion. Interesting. Are you saying Canada expand? Do you think Canada is are you saying Canada is perhaps subject to the United States or Britain? Who are you most influenced by? I think Canada is most influenced by the US. That's from what I have seen. I don't think Canada is influenced as much by Britain today. Let me see. Queen Elizabeth? Are you serious? So you think Canada is most influenced by what the Queen has to say? Across the pond? Yikes. So Canada is a fake dominion. Oh, really? That's interesting. So Canada is caught between the two, right? Canada is caught between Britain and America. Wow. So you have the North Sea. Canada is close to the North Sea. So, and Britain mines oil from the North Sea. So it is in their interest to keep Canada under subjection. I see. I get that. And then America is to the south of Canada. And America is like, don't play with me. You do as I say. Right? But do you think that Prime Minister Trudeau will survive? Let me see what you got to say. You think that Canada has a governor general who is the top dog? Okay. You guys still do that stuff where you have a governor general? You still, oh, come on. I thought you gave that up a long time ago and it is a sovereign, fully sovereign nation. I guess you're still subject to what the Queen says, huh? Anyway, so do you think Trudeau will survive though? Do you think he's likely to survive? Because that's so in your situation then, the governor general, can he ask the prime minister to step down? Or that's not how the process works there. Because here in America, public opinion is everything, right? The Queen owns the deeds to Canada. Shut up. Is that just, that's not true. Let me stop. That's not true. That's not true. That's not true. You're just saying that. You're just saying that. It's true? Oh, really? So the Queen owns Canada? Wow. So is the Queen likely to call Trudeau up and say, bad boy, you've been a bad boy. Bad boy. Is that what's going to happen? Fact. These are the facts. The facts are that the Queen owns Canada and everything in Canada. Wow. And so if the Queen owns Canada, the Bahamas, Australia, etc. Okay. The Queen still has the deeds, huh? Under her pillow at night. When she goes to bed at night, she says, well, all is right with the Commonwealth. Okay, Queen Elizabeth. Okay. Okay. Dang. That's why you gotta respect America. America was like, oh, no, I'm not part of anybody's Commonwealth. I'm my own Commonwealth. The Commonwealth of Virginia, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, the Commonwealth of Connecticut. That's America. America is like, no, we're not going to do that. We're not part of nobody's Commonwealth. We are our own over here. And especially here in Detroit, where the auto workers are striking right now. They're like, man, I kid you not. I kid you not. But do you think that Trudeau will survive? That's key. Do you think his political future is in jeopardy? because it seems like every prominent white person who has achieved or become public has some sort of blackface in their past. I mean, recently here in America, it was the governor of Virginia, right? And the governor of Virginia is a Democrat. So it's hardly almost inconceivable to imagine that, but yet it happened, right? So it seems to me like non-colored people have this rite of passage where at some point in their history they paint their faces black to make fun of people of color. Is that a thing? You're in Niagara Falls on the Canadian side. Okay. Well, thanks for joining me. That's awesome. Right? So you're on the Canadian side. So you are Canadian. Come on. On the Canadian side. Right? But do you see what I mean? I am saying that it's amazing to me because I find that people are it's I don't understand the process why it seems as if people who are non-colored seem to think that it's okay to just color their faces black as if it's a joke. It's causing quite the storm in Canada, though, the political storm. It's the Nexium. Right? And awesome conversation. I really appreciate that. And it seems like it's just taken for granted. We have the same issues here. I mean, like I told you, it was the governor of Virginia, and they all, it was a yearbook while he was in college. So of course he said it was a youthful indiscretion. You know what was the funny thing was he had a black lieutenant governor. And the black lieutenant governor, they found a rape charge or a rape allegation in his history, and he had to resign. But the white guy who appeared in blackface in a yearbook photo did not resign and was not impeached. And they kept him. But the black guy, they were like, dude, you got to go. Because that was a rape allegation that he raped someone. Right? So what I'm saying is, it seems to me that if you know you have those kinds of things in your past, then before you run, don't run for public office. Don't hold public office. You're going to be held for accountability. And what happens when you're held for accountability? You have to be accountable. I think Mr. Trudeau owes not just the Canadian citizens who look like the blackface he was making fun of. I think he owes everybody, and he owes all of us an explanation. And he needs to come clean and say, well, this is how I feel. This is what is in my heart. Don't show me your black friend. Don't show me that you have an Indian friend. Don't show me any of that. Tell me what is in your heart. I've struggled with it or whatever. Right? You can dig up info on Trudeau in Epstein's club. Really? In Epstein's club. So hold on. That's why they killed Epstein, because conspiracy theories abound, because he had info on everybody, didn't he? Everybody was at his club. I think so. Everybody was, sampled whatever Mr. Epstein was offering, because if you're rich and powerful, that's the way to go. He was the man for that. If you found you had that kind of fetish, right? So there was no way they were going to allow him to testify and say anything. Tells us a lot about human nature, doesn't it? We're not fallible. And folks, I guess the message really here is, don't hold anyone to such a high standard that they can't meet. Don't exalt people above the station of humility and above the station of being human, because you will be disappointed. I tell folks all the time, I am such a work in progress. I am not perfect. Man, I have issues day in, day out. I'm perhaps too transparent sometimes in telling you what my issues are, right? But at the same time, I really feel like if you're going to hold public office, clean up some of the stuff that you perhaps can never explain, no matter what you say. And I don't know how he could have forgotten a picture like that. Seriously. How could you forget that? It was public. It was in a yearbook. as recent as 2001 or 2002. I'm like, that was just the other day. It's not like something from 1965, right? It's talking about 2002. You can find that stuff. I'm white and love the Ebony Sisters. I bet that you do, right? There's nothing wrong with people being people. I think everybody comes from a certain background and we're all quite a collage of people. I think that was the grand design. I've always wondered about racism and wondered why people uh what? Are you serious? Okay, so I've often wondered how people came up with that uh I've often wondered how people came up with the idea of racism. I've often wondered where it originated. Who taught anybody that they were superior? Who told anybody that you were better than someone else because of the color of your skin? Where did that thought ever come from? Has anyone ever wondered about that? I have often wondered who told you that the color of your skin made you a better person. I've often wondered about that because there is no justification for ever thinking like that. There is nothing about a white human being that makes you superior to a brown human being, another colored human being. It's ridiculous. People are people. And if you don't believe me, put a black person, a brown person, and a white person in front of an alligator, and he's going to eat them all because you're all human. He's not going to sniff past one and go to the other and put one up on a tree and not eat one. He's going to eat, that alligator is going to eat everybody. Do you see what I'm saying? And I've never understood where this color chasm came from, where human beings got the idea that it was okay to mistreat one group of people simply on the basis of the color of your skin. That was wrong 1,000 years ago, and it's still wrong today. Because what it has done is divided people and has created marginalizations that do not exist, that should not exist, that disparage against people. It has created economic oppression and it has created racial oppression. It has created depression. It has left a whole continent of people bereft and devoid of their own natural resources. They have beaten and pillaged people. To this day, that kind of stuff perpetuates. But if not for grace, if not for the fact that most of us have found a way out of the system, and some of us have progressed beyond those thinkings that existed 100 years ago, if you are not careful, that kind of thing can come back. But I have news for you. There's a new reality. You know what the new reality is? The new reality is MONEY. The color of it now is turning green. How much green do you have? That's what allows you to exist in corridors of power anywhere in the world. And so the people who are down here who don't have access to the power of green, they're the ones who continue to perpetuate the myth that I am better than you because of the color of your skin. I am better than you because I look different. And the society somehow thinks I'm a superior being. I'm like, girl, go sit yourself down. I walked into a Staples this morning to buy something, and everybody, the staff and everybody was in there. I probably looked flustered because I was looking for something that I couldn't find. And nobody offered to help. I don't know if they were too busy or whatever their stupid idea was. I don't know. But even the people who were in the store were looking like at any minute now, somebody better answer this lady before it becomes a problem. It's the Staples on 14 Mile Road between Crooks and whatever, right? And I kid you not, I'm calling them out because when you people walk into your store, say hello. Go find something and say hello. Somebody eventually came and helped me find what I was finding because I guess he could look at my face and see that I was annoyed because I have things to do. I don't have time to walk around in the store when people are standing around and so on. But it was the attitude of even the patrons who were there, how they looked at people, how they carried themselves as if. And I'm like, this is why people talk about racism. Join me again on down to earth with Harriet Kemmick, right? This is why people talk about racism. This is why people have so much to say about racism, because it needs to stop. Stop judging people by the color of their skin and by their appearance. Everybody is not your mate, because those people were in there. I know they never lived like I have lived. I know they've never been where I have been. So, but for the color of their skin, you're going to think someone is better. What about what the person thinks of someone? That person could be a pedophile. That person could be a murderer. That person could be a child molester. That person could just have had sex with a 13-year-old boy somewhere. And you think because of the color of their skin, they're better than somebody else. It's time out for that stuff. It's time out for that stuff. We need to stop this foolishness and get on with the business of being human. This morning on CBS News, they had a story about the glaciers in Greenland that are melting. One of them has melted so bad it caved in. It is the entire length of Manhattan. So if they were to take all the water that was in that glacier, it would be the length of Manhattan. Are you listening to me? That's what we all need to worry about. In 20 years, there'll be no coastal towns and cities, not just here in America, but around the world, because the seas are going to rise by 20 feet. That's what we need to pay attention to. The North Pole is melting. The seas are rising up. When the seas start rising, little island nations are going to disappear. That's what we need to pay attention to. Not this foolishness about my color. You are brown, I am black, you are red, I am green, I am white. It's time out for that stuff. What you all gonna do if a meteor falls out of the sky? What if a meteor falls out of the sky? If a meteor falls out of the sky on this planet? It's going to make the seas rise and countries are going to have issues. What are you all gonna do? We're going to have to rely on each other to dig ourselves as the form of humanity that we are and get out of it, right? Otherwise, our goose is cooked, right? So time out for this stuff. Mr. Trudeau, you owe the entire world an explanation. You're a world leader. I don't care if you're 47 now, and when you did it, you were 29. You were old enough then to know what you were doing, and you came from a family with politics in your background. So at some point you were going to enter the political fray. It's not like you weren't aware. So wealth and privilege also has its responsibility, Mr. Trudeau. You owe the rest of us an explanation, and you need to come clean and apologize to people and say this does not represent me as a world leader, and I should not have done it, and I encourage others to look in your past and clean yourselves up. That's what you ought to say. That's what the language should be. Take some accountability. Don't just hide there and say, I shouldn't have done it, I'm sorry. That's not enough. Make sure you say, that was wrong of me to think like that, and it's wrong of me to think like that now, and it's wrong in the future, and it is wrong for the end of time. That's what Mr. Trudeau needs to say. And until he says that, it's time out for him. I'm done with him. Seriously, I'm done with him. What a disappointment. His father, Pierre Trudeau, must be turning over in his grave like, look how silly you were, boy. I left you a legacy, and look what you've done with it. This is the problem with people with privilege. You know, they get so used to having privilege, they think it's going to perpetuate, and that privilege, that veneer of privilege that separates them from the general public, is always going to protect them even when they fall. Didn't this time, because we live in a different day and time. Everything is open and transparent. And now that the eyes of the world are on him, guess what? People are going to search more, and they're going to find stuff. You want to bet? They're going to find stuff because it looks like he didn't clean it up, right? So what you're saying is the managed socialists, whatever, in Canada has banned you. On Trudeau apology was a continuation of its election campaign. Canada has Islamophobia. Trudeau imports thousands of what? North border will overrun. Wow. Sikhs in Canada have no helmet laws on motorcycles. Wow. Right? Justin's dad. Right? Wow. So thank you so much for your contribution. We're going to end our show Thanks so much for the contributions you have made and for what you have said. It seems to me that we have some real issues, right? It looks like it's a rite of passage. I guess there'll be more. So we're going to watch and see what more is going to come out and how it's all going to play out. Thanks so much, everybody. Be blessed. See you on Sunday. Bye. Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us. And we will see you on Sunday. Make sure you join me on Sunday morning for Sunday Morning with Harry Kamek. Thanks so much, everybody.